Hey, how's it going? It's that guy Cardboard. It's been a couple weeks. I've just been really busy with work and travel and whatnot. But yeah, a lot of things have happened in that last couple 3 to 4 weeks. So I wanted to talk about three things. I wanted to talk about one, junk wax cars not being junk waxed anymore. Slabgate, and I wanted to do a contest response to Mr. Burrows 3. Um, so yeah, to start off, I think it's pretty interesting that a lot of these so-called junk wax cards considered, made in the 80s and 90s that are junk, worthless cards are no longer that no anymore to an extent. Um, so, for example, I bought this 1994 SP A-Rod card in Mint 9 back in 2017 for around $55, and now this card is worth $180 to $225. So, yeah, in just 2 years, this card went from about $55 to $60 to a $200 card. And then this other very classic card from the 90s, the 1990 Leaf, Frank Thomas and Gem Mint 10. Bought this card in 2017 for about $60. Now this card goes for roughly $125 to $150. So some of these cards from the 90s and 80s have really skyrocketed in price. And I think a pretty big part of that is just, the mere fact that all cards across all years and eras have really increased in value. But I think the Beckett issue, they highlighted the best cards from the 1980s. That was back in November of 2018. Really kind of helped the cards from the 80s as well as the 90s really increase in value. And these cards have been very hot. As well as the 1993 SP Jeter. My God, that card has increased in value. If you follow my channel, you know that I collect the players from the 3000 Hit Club and the 500 Home Run Club, and Jeter's in the 3000 Hit Club. And his 1993 SP card in a PSA 8 has been going for roughly $200 to $300 for the last 4 or 5 years I've been tracking it. And in the off season, it generally goes for, literally $200 to $250 max. Now that card is like $600 to $800. I'm sure a lot of that's due to him reaching the Hall of Fame, but it's also pretty crazy because that card in a PSA 8 has at least 3,000 submissions in that grade. So it's not a very tough card to find in that grade. But yeah, it just goes to show some of these junk wax era cards are worth something. Although it is sort of surprising that some cards, some very classic, iconic cards, have not really moved that much in the last couple of years. For example, this Gwen I bought in 2017 for about $55 is worth the same now. This 85 Topps Market Wire in a PSA 9 was $60, and it's worth about the same now. Another, a very classic card from 1990 Leaf, the Sammy Sosa, I bought this for $35 in 2017. It's worth about the same. Whereas, this card is almost tripled in value. Thomas is a much more collected player than Sammy Sosa, and same with this Wade Boggs. This card I bought in a year or so ago for $55 is still worth the same. But some of these very, very iconic cards from the 90s, like the A-Rod and the, not the same Sosa, the A-Rod and the Frank Thomas, as well as the Jeter rookie, have really just exploded in price. I know a lot of the cards from the 80s have gone up in value too. So yeah, some of these junk wax era cars are not so much junk anymore. Yeah, so next I wanted to talk about Slabgate. everyone's been talking about Slabgate. I've been reading all the blogs on Blowout and Net54 and just seeing all the videos. I guess my take on this whole thing is, to me, this is not eye-opening. I've been collecting really kind of, I guess, hardcore since 2011, and I think this has been well known that there's been card doctors. I think cards really blew up in price around 2015. That's when Forbes started writing about cards as an investment, and you would see these cards double in price. I remember in 2016 you can get a Tito 6 Ty Cobb red portrait and a PSA 3 for about $1,500. Now it's $3,000, $4,000 depending on the eye appeal of that card. So cards have just gone insane, and as a result, I think it's really increased card doctoring, because you can get a card in a high grade or even a card in a lower grade with great eye appeal, and it will really increase in value. I think what's scary about this whole scandal is that this card doctor or card doctors have been altering cards, not just to make them high grade, but to make them also lower grade. Like, there's been some Tito 6 cards that have gotten graded from like a 3 to a 4.5, and they're not even like Hall of Fame cards. So this is a widespread problem across high grade and low grade cards. So it really affects everybody. And it's also just very alarming to me that these companies like PSA are missing these kind of blatant alterations. Like, there's been pinholes filled in that they can't catch. There's been recoloring on cars 100 years old that they for some reason can't catch. I feel like a blacklight could solve that. I can understand trimming. Some of these older cards come in different sizes and you might miss that. But like recoloring of cards and filling in pinholes and filling in nicks and filling in the basically building up the corners of cards, I just feel like that's, I don't know, it's unacceptable for these third-party graders to miss that. Now we're paying $15 to $20, even more, to get these cards graded, and they look at these cards for 5 seconds and then they just grade them, and they're missing these huge alterations. But I think there's some positive to come to this whole scandal. I think hopefully third-party graders are going to have to get better at grading cards. They're going to have to look at these cards a little more closely, maybe use better technology, hopefully use some computer scanning or something. And I also think this whole Slabgate scandal is hopefully will bring prices back to a normal level. Like I said, around 2016, 2015, car prices have doubled and tripled in some cases across vintage, modern, everything. It's just become like this out of control thing. And I think hopefully that this scandal will kind of level things out, along with the eBay sales tax that's rolled out in the last year. I know just this month, I buy cards. I live in New York, and there's been a sales tax associated now with cards, so it's like a 7% sales tax. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you buy like a high dollar card, that's a lot of money. That can be like a $70 charge depending on what you get. So I think that, combined with people being more cautious of buying cards with this scandal and maybe wanting to wait it out a bit to see what happens, I think it's going to drive prices down a little bit. Maybe not a huge bit, not back to 2016 prices, but a little bit. They're gonna go down a bit. At the same time, I'm not naive to think that everyone knows about this scandal. I'd say we're living in a bubble. Yes, people follow YouTube and people follow these forums. For the most part, most people that collect cards are unaware of this scandal. But I do think there's going to be a dip in price, and I think that's a good thing. And I think there's also going to be a little more scrutiny with these third-party graders and what they grade, hopefully. I know a lot of the auction houses now are doing their own kind of grading. They're doing their own measuring. They're not just gonna list a PSA card and say this is what it is. They're gonna measure it themselves with their own opinion on it, and scrutinize it. And I think that's a good thing. Okay, so enough of Slabgate. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Burrows 3. He has a 100 subscriber contest. I think he's at to roughly 160 subscribers. So congrats on that. Reaching 100 subscribers is a big deal. And I like Mr. Burrows' channel. He wanted to say 3 things. Why you like his channel, what you want from his channel, and a card of the story. So I like his channel because he highlights 90s insert cards. I'm into 90s insert cards as well. I like them because they're a lot like collecting rare vintage cards. 90s insert cards are very tough to find, just like a scarce card from the pre-war era. I like that, and I also like that you don't have to really worry about condition because they're so scarce. Like, who cares if it's a PSA 7? If it's a card there's only 25 copies available, and it was back in the 90s when people weren't really thinking these are gonna be worth a ton of money. It's just really just cool to have the card, regardless of grade. And in this new era of scandals of trimming cards, it's kind of refreshing just to collect a card for what it is, and instead of like what it's graded for. And I guess what I want to see from his channel, I already like his channel. Like he's got this great podcast where he interviews people. I do want to get on the podcast soon. I'm not big on showing my face, but I will down the line. Nothing against that. I'm friends with a lot of people on Facebook. I guess I don't know. Yeah, I think I would maybe want to see more cards in the podcast, but I'm certainly willing to sit down and passively listen to these hour-long podcasts because I love 90s inserts. There's so much information about 90s inserts, and I love sharing that kind of information. I love hearing it too. Just a story about cards, really quick. I think I've shared these stories before, but I think it's worth sharing again because it's kind of how I got into the hobby again. So I had a Michael Jordan shrine in middle school of his cards, and this is one of the first graded cards I ever bought. I think this is probably around 2000, 2001. I thought this was just a cool card. I always wanted this card as a kid because it had his number 45 jersey when he came back after retirement from baseball. And around 2011, 2012, I was just curious what this card would be worth, and I looked it up, and I thought it was worth like $300, and I was mistaken because I thought this was the refractor version. This is just the base card, which is not worth too much. But in my stupidity, I thought, well, wow, like these cards that I had collected and as a kid are now worth a lot of money, and I just started getting into like, what else should I collect? So I started collecting more and more like Jordan cards, his Fleer cards. But even back in 2012, his insert cards were worth a lot of money. In hindsight, they were a great deal because his insert cards are worth an absolute fortune 7 years later. But anyway, I just sort of branched off and discovered the pre-war cards, and I got really into T206s, and I wanted to branch out a little bit more, and I got into collecting 500 run and 3000 hit clubs. And then I also just love the 90s insert cards, and I just wanted to collect 90s insert cards, and I found baseball cards were a little more affordable in basketball, so that's how I got into collecting Barry Larkin. So anyway, this card really got me into the hobby, and I do need to pick up the refractor. I definitely will someday. It's it's not too expensive, and it's just an important card for me. But I think another card I haven't shown yet, I think this is from 1994 SP Hall of View. This is a Nick Van Exel card that I cherished as a kid. I traded a bunch of cards with this card. I guess some people may forget who Nick Van Exel was. He was a pretty good guard. He was kind of a big deal player for me because he went to University of Cincinnati, and I grew up in Cincinnati. So I was had to acquire this card as a kid, and I just thought this was the coolest card because the technology still is a cool card. But I would love to pick the Jordan card of this, the die cut Jordan card of this. But yeah, these are pretty big cards for me when I was a kid. That's my story. Go subscribe to Mr. Burrows 3. Maybe reconsider junk wax era cards. They're kind of hot right now. And have faith in the hobby. I think Slabgate is a black eye, but it's nothing, I think, new. And personally, I'm not surprised by it. And I think good things will come of it. That's it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I have some more pickups that I will show soon.